word why. What a curious word. The kind of word that can make us cringe, feel defensive, or even distant. But you know, sometimes why is the key that can unlock so much to our lives. Join me as we explore the why with fascinating contributors to the world, those that entertain us, inform us, teach us about life, and if we're lucky, inspire the next in all of us. I'm your host, Dr. Rod Berger, and welcome to HeadRoom, a production of Rainlight and co-produced by Old Soul. Let's go. Well, I like to walk into interviews feeling, somewhat confident in the subject matter that we're going to explore. And I'm getting more confident. That's what's really interesting about this topic area, the metaverse, crypto, NFTs. And it happened just in the preparation for this discussion, this interview today. I found myself reading something and saying, oh, I get it. I almost didn't even have to second guess it. So maybe that means that the little work that I've been doing in it and studying has been paying off. And I hope that that is the case for all of you. Looking forward to this conversation. We have a rock star. I don't care what country you're in. I think people understand what rock star means when we think about sort of what is next in Web3 technology, but really it's innovation and it's seeing a borderless, I think, horizon. And that is our guest, Deniz Ozgur. Did I get kind of Denise? Close. I apologize. You're coming to us from Istanbul. We were talking about the airport in a second. I want people to understand who you are, and probably many do if they know Space Runners, the metaverse fashion brand or fashion tech platform. But Denise has been recognized on Forbes 30 under 30 list and operates at the nexus of technology, finance, and fashion. After securing a degree in economics and finance in 2020, she moved rapidly in the role of head of growth at TechSign, an industry leader in AI-enhanced KYC. That's Know Your Customer Solutions. In 2021, Denise co-founded Space Runners, swiftly assembling a 60-person team and raising $12 million in initial funding. Company set a landmark by launching a $10 million digital collectible NFT collection in collaboration with NBA champions Kyle Kuzma and Nick Young, which sold out in a record 9 seconds. Partnerships with fashion titans like Balmain, Kicks, and Smiley further bolstered the company's innovative stance in the fashion arena. Space Runners is developing the first ever AI fashion designer designed to democratize fashion by allowing anyone to create and market their own items. I mean, it's really interesting to me. It also makes me feel my age, Denise, is to say, what is out there? Sort of what are we exploring? And how are we going to interact with that? You know, I interviewed Deepak Chopra earlier I believe it was this calendar year, and talking about the Chopraverse and the way in which he's looking at this and other sort of leaders and notables in this space. What is it about Web3 that caught your attention? And when did that happen? How old were you, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, of course. Well, great intro to start with. I got into space pretty early, right after my college. I was on the economics and finance, and as you can guess, everyone at that time, I guess, 2017, 18, they were investing in crypto, discovering what it is. And then I found it interesting, of course, but not on the investing. I do have my way to work with engineers, I guess, although I'm not a fully technical person. I just kind of fell in love with the technology because from my degree, I know that doing economics, doing any kind of money transfer was a pain in the ass. So, and if you're an entrepreneur, like from fundraising to getting payment, it's just it was making everything global. And it happened the way that I was imagining with Space Runners, like the team gathering, fundraising, the idea, everything. We are actually using this beautiful financial infrastructure, blockchain, which is, of course, I know that there's lots of debate out there, like crypto is up and down, but tech wise, I think there's a merit. I just wanted to use that, build around that. So I've started actually few other ventures before Space Runners, trying to experiment on the technology, trying to help or work innovate for others, basically. But then Space Runners made everything formalized, and then it became a pretty successful company by now.
I would say so. I think you talk about off and running, no pun intended. Let's talk about the culture of Web3. Let's talk about the metaverse. And we would say sort of the older term might be software adoption, right? But this sort of adoption where we understand the interface of our digital world and our physical worlds. And I've had some people say that one of the challenges generationally is that, younger people are used to being able to move things within their environment in a digital landscape. And that is obviously not the case in a physical landscape in the same way. I can't just move a tree because I've decided to move it in an instant, but I can do that. Where are we in that sort of the adoption phase, and what else needs to be done so that folks that either in my age group look like me or you sort of need to help just be a part of that community? What needs to be done in communicating the value proposition so that it isn't an either or proposition, but it's an and?
Great questions. So I guess even for my generation, I'm currently 25. It's getting a little hard to understand. So don't feel like it needs to happen. Like the adaptation needs to get easier for sure. But you and like we all observe that for a younger generation, like they are actually living in two different worlds. They have a virtual character, avatar activities. They do have a very like imaginative world out there, and surprisingly, the people who are spending more time in the digital spaces, they're actually looking for ways to express themselves and personalize things for themselves and transact with others and engage with the world. So for us, like fashion was a great tool to achieve that, especially for two different worlds who are considered to be great industries in the physical world, like gaming and fashion. So there's and people in gaming, younger generation they love personalization, they love all the like engagement and luxury even, but before I guess like all the metaverse and Web3 space, that wasn't a way to actually engage with the physical brands or physical world. So now with the metaverse, again, the market is just up and down, I know, but the technology got us in a place where brands are able to get into this world in a step by step, and they're able to engage with the audiences in different ways. So of course the adoption is increasing daily, but there are some challenges along the way that keeps others coming in. First thing is, of course, about the user experience. I still think that blockchain is not easy to understand for many people, and applications are requiring lots of technical knowledge. Even like you need to have a wallet at least, or you need to have some kind of a reading before to purchase the Ethereum fees, to pay the gas even. So that makes things a little crazy in my head. Even if you check like Apple Store today, there's no user app for blockchain. It's just wallets and exchanges, and it makes things look like blockchain is all about the financial infrastructure. It's actually not. Like there can be several other applications that people are actually, like, ventures are calling it 2.5, Web 2.5, where Web 2 is connected with Web 3 basically. So once I feel like more and more people are building stuff that integrates blockchain, that doesn't that is not highlighting blockchain as a technology, but as a great use case. I feel like that's the way that more people will just come in. Number one. Number two is about the hardware. The metaverses and like all the big games are hard to scale. So the number of users, the number of activity, and the feeling as well, like, or the VR glasses are not as a position as infrastructure and the hardware to support people to spend more time on, especially the older generation. So I get that is also improving. Like Apple is doing something, Microsoft is doing another thing, and I'm pretty sure it will get easier. And infrastructure-wise, also we need to have a better internet as internationally, basically, to engage with more people in a faster way. So that's infrastructure challenge is another thing that we need to exceed as the second thing. But above all this, the adoption is still increasing because the young generation is super hungry to spend actually more time in the virtual space. So I'm all positive.
Let's talk about the impact. So once somebody is sort of I'm going to use physical terms, but meaning them within a digital environment, which is to walk into the space and to start to maybe feel comfortable and understand things, as I was talking at the open of our chat today. What do you think the impact is after someone has been indoctrinated into Web3 on their interpretation of the physical world? The way, let's use fashion as an example. If I didn't really understand fashion in the physical world, but I have a sort of a different, maybe new and evolved appreciation in the digital world, are we seeing, can we anticipate that that will change potentially the way in which I engage with fashion in the physical world? And is there benefit in finding ways to sort of deconstruct that value proposition and life cycle of our interaction with those things around us?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that we've realized in fashion space, even with the luxury brands, I think once people start engaging with the Web3 version of their favorite brand, basically, it's more like breaking the wall between the brand and that person. So it's just like people feels more loyal to that brand. That brand becomes more accessible, more approachable. So people are getting that item, but that item doesn't represent something wearable. It's just a representation of accessing, reaching out to that brand's benefits, basically, or like any events that they're organizing, their head designer, for example, like something exclusive with them, more chance to engage, basically. So that's one thing. The other thing is, as people are spending more time in the digital space, obviously there's this expectation of having more privilege on the virtual space. It can be with your avatars. It's just like purchasing a Lamborghini in the physical world. There are things also in the digital space that would give away your exclusivity. That would make you a VIP person. That would make you feel more special. So I think people were, before Web3, there was no chance of actually doing this, because there's no such thing as limiting the supply. So I guess it's the first time where a customer can truly engage with a luxury brand and feel special having a part of it. So that's a new experience for every brand, is something that I can say. But they're surprisingly open to innovate in this field. I wouldn't say even for the luxury brands they're afraid, because you would expect them to, even a bit to be a bit scared of losing their exclusivity, their heritage, for example. Like I would expect them to protect, have the tendency to protect that heritage. But it's actually the way around, surprisingly.
Denise, I was going to ask, do you know, are we doing any brain research on sort of the pleasure centers of the brain? Are we seeing that it's sort of expanding and we're lighting up in different areas where, to your point, if I'm buying a Lamborghini here in the States, that's an experience, right? And I mean, that's sort of an extreme example, but that if I did that in a Web3 environment, that in essence, the same parts of my brain would light up. Are we starting to see that there's some sort of translation or equivalency?
I think so. I definitely think so. Since people are now connecting in a more global scale with everyone, I think that's the ultimate way of showcasing who you are, basically. And people are doing everything online right now. Like they engage, they connect, they get married, they get like fundraising, they build a team, they do everything online. So I guess that's going to be an important thing always, to build an identity in wherever you are. And yeah, that's going to be here with us, I believe.
Let's pivot a little bit and talk about your role in the space. By all accounts in my research, I mean, you seem to be incredibly humble, and it's probably helping you. But there's sort of a steely nature about you that says that you're not afraid of what is out there. And I think that that's really, that's to be celebrated as an entrepreneur. Talk a little bit about the role of being maybe sort of an unofficial ambassador to the space, because we need people to sort of be the first ones on that, that initial voyage to, I don't know, bend the rules a bit, see what is possible, identify maybe the potholes where they are, where we didn't anticipate them to be. What role do you see yourself being in this space? And not only that, but to be a female in a male-dominated space.
No, of course. If I mean, there's lots of speeches about being female in the space, in the tech space, but I only see that as an advantage, honestly. People are, especially in the fashion space, especially in the gaming space, it's easily noticeable when you do something, when you try to just innovate a space, when you're courageous enough to do something that it's just new, basically fresh. So I guess me and my team and my position, honestly, was just bringing talented people and just try to facilitate their lives. It's not about like me. It was never, and it will never be like me telling them a stuff, or my co-founder basically to just do stuff. It was always them telling us, basically. The thing is, of course, there's lots of challenges starting from the way that we do stuff. We work with people because they are super, super diverse. We are not only working with fashion people, but there's also engineers. So they're like mentally against each other because one is being super creative and unstructured while the other is super rational, and they want to stick with, they're like getting super crazy once these people start to create. So there's I guess me and my co-founder, we are a little bit of a balancer between these two groups, and it's just internal. It's just make them productive internally, but externally we do have a role as well. Like we need to speak, we need to inform people, we need to make technology a bit more understandable, because we, for example, with Balmain, and they're a great partner in any way, but they also had some, of course, time to, they require some time to process. They are asking all these questions about blockchain, which blockchain to use, how much fee to the users need to pay, because it's something that luxury people never experienced before. But they are super keen to understand. Obviously, it takes time, so we need to be a little more, slow and understanding. So yeah, I just be calm, balancer, find resources, facilitate people's life, make them happy. That's our role basically in this space. I'm not, it's not like I'm finding US from zero. It's not like that.
HeadRoom is produced by Old Soul, a one-stop marketing agency that understands the power of brand and nuance. Reach out to my guy Matt at Old Soul and supercharge your brand and content strategy. That's Old Soul. Shoot Matt a note at aoldsoul.com. That's AOLDSOUL.com. And now, back to our guest. Let's talk about education and setting the next generation up. So those that are even that much younger than you, right? I have a 9 and an 11-year-old, and I think about the classes that they're in, what they're studying, what they're experiencing, even with their friends. Is there anything that would tell us how we might want to think about the types of opportunities we present students? I recently interviewed Hadi Partovi, the founder of Code.org, and Hadi, I think, is a real thought leader in the space and what he's trying to do to impact education. From your vantage point, what would have been helpful when you were, 15 or even younger, when you think about the types of academics that you were exposed to and preparing you for where you are today? Because part of me feels like anything new and inventive and exploratory, there's a little bit of luck involved, right? You kind of have to bounce around and have experiences and say, wait a minute, I can do this. And this interests me. And those things combine, you meet the right people, and all of a sudden you've got space runners. So think about education. What could we do to improve that or set the younger generation up to succeed?
Yeah. I mean, surprisingly, I guess in the first half of my educational years, I was a great student. I was always like, I was the nerd. And to be honest, during that process, there's things that I now see that is improvable. So that's a great question. So of course, to start with, especially if you haven't born in if you have been born outside of US or Europe, basically, you need to learn English, basically, or you need to be a global person. So that's number one, above everything. And once that's checked, the second thing is I feel like there's no career at the moment that will not change in the next 5 years, especially with AI and everything. So anything that is repeatable, anything that is automizable, that will be just gone. And I feel like the main thing that the education is just should bring to people's mind is the way of thinking. So that structured way of thinking, that mathematical thinking, that is quite important, because even for my generation, and I know that this is getting like ultra hard for the younger ones, is the lack of focus, because everything is happening at the same time and you are under the exposure of like all these things because you're like fully online. So it's really hard. I mean, of course, people these days are like, they're super smart, but also the way that they are getting exposed, like it's just it's hard to choose one thing and focus on that and keep improving on that when there's lots of other opportunities happening at the same time. While that's the trick, like focusing on one thing and just achieving that and moving forward. And then if you are a person with a mathematical mind, basically, if you're an arithmetic person, that's really just that's something needed. So I would give that more and more weight on the education for sure. Outside of that, nothing. Like being global and thinking structured are the two main things. I mean, everything else, if you're open to innovation, if you're keen to work hard, obviously, if you have that ethics somehow, I think it's just you should be good to go.
So a lot of people are concerned, and maybe it's just out of fear, and it's the unknown, which is the AI side. You know, like Chat GPT, right? So you've got Google CEO talking about knowledge workers are going to be sort of a thing of the past because we're going to be able to solve for that. I feel like we're entering into a world of scenarios and probability, and that sort of beta testing is going to be, that's the lab that we're all going to be walking into. Is there any impact of AI, even for the likes of you and your contemporaries, in fearing that sort of once we let the cat out of the bag, the impact AI can even have in the metaverse and Web3 could potentially feel like it's stripping our ability to enjoy the process or the journey? You know, we've said for generations, it's the process, it's the journey, it's not the result, right? And that's what kind of makes, I think, it's one thing that defines us and makes us recognizably human, which is that we can, along the way, acknowledge the experiences that we're having. Well, if we're in a world of AI that is collapsing timelines and providing the answer, the proverbial answer, is that going to impact even your world on the way in which you think, the way in which you strategize and try to keep up?
Yeah, that's a philosophical question that I'm myself experiencing. Even the way I work, like sometimes I feel like the brain is really melting because we are not trained for this. We are humans. We are supposed to enjoy with the process. I don't think that will be the case anymore, to be super honest. We are getting more impatient over time with the technology, but right now with AI, it's just like, I do need an answer right away. And I think on metaverse and blockchain specifically, we were designing stuff. We were just working on, pixel and pixel. It was taking time. Obviously, there was we needed more resource, etc. So in any dimension, of course, that's much more efficient. But for the designing and creation piece right now, with the use of AI, everything is just about the resource, the results anymore. So that's of course, time will tell is the thing that I can say. But I strongly believe that in like 10, 15 years, the nature of human, or the way that we will just think, that will also change, or we will alternatively, they will just give us a chip to change the way with which is more likely, I think.
I appreciate your approach to that. The question that I posed, it reminded me of, and I've mentioned this a few times on the show, there's a series on Netflix called Unknown. It's a documentary series. I think there are 4 different episodes. And the one it's called Killer Robots. And if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend that. But they look at AI in the military. And to your point, what is fascinating, they had 2 researchers, I believe, from North Carolina here in the States. And on a Friday, they changed an algorithm. They replaced either a 1 with a 0 or a 0 with a 1. And by Monday, the AI had generated 40,000 different biological chemical weapons. And it makes you think in a million different ways, right? It's not only the danger of what that could be, right? Sort of the other side of the coin, but also what's the impact on researchers like that? Because to me, they're very much like you and your contemporaries, right? You're researching, you're trying to understand it. It's almost as if I wrote this note down as you were responding. It's when you talk about the philosophical question around process and enjoyment, it's like we went from this brick by brick approach to life, right? Building brick by brick to now it's house by house, community by community, and it's coming faster and faster and faster. And I would have to think this goes a little bit back to the educational piece that we touched on, which is you could argue that will impact the paths that younger people will take in their own educational pursuits. Whereas in essence, if you've already discovered, if it's a treasure map and you've already discovered the treasure, well, why am I going to go and try to look for the same treasure, right? Maybe I'll take whatever skill set and apply that in another domain or another area of professionalism.
Mm-hmm. That's totally legit. And not to even mention, like right now, the existing AI models are language models. Like it's actually predicting what comes after a word, right? Like, and with the chips, I wasn't actually kidding. Like I'm actually like seriously thinking about this sometimes. If you're a competitor person and if you are impatient about the innovation and you keep, and that's kind of an addictive thing for the entrepreneurs. Like it's not like the end of the story is here. Just like we want to keep building. And in that regard, I'm pretty sure like maybe in 5 years, it's not going to be only language processing models, but it's going to be about like the thinking processing models, basically to crack how we think and just generate ideas. So I'm not sure if we will call ourselves like human at that point. I guess that's again like super philosophical and I just don't want to dive deep, but I just spent so much time thinking about it.
Isn't it so interesting? Deniz, it's so fascinating to me that when you just said it's philosophical and you don't want to dive that deep. So hold that. So we'll sort of hold two truths, right? So we've got that you just said. And we also have this fearless nature about you and your contemporaries in the absolute willingness to jump off of the digital cliff and see if you land and or where you go. So in one sense, you're fearless, but on the human, maybe in the physical world, the contemplation of when we are human or when that ceases to exist or it becomes real fuzzy, that's a place you're not ready to go to yet. I just find that as a fascinating observation.
Yeah, I on the digital side, I would just, if they launched the chip like tomorrow, I would probably like 90% jump through it and try. Like I know that it will fail at some point because it was the same in Web3 space as well. Like so many people got into the road and just raised funding and then they built teams. But sometimes it just fails and that's understandable because it's super fascinating to me. I think it's just worth it. But on the physical world, I just sometimes close my laptop just like, everyone, and I just want to slow down. But the facts in the physical world, I think they're more, they cause more hesitation. Like personally on me, I wouldn't talk about everyone in general, but if you're an entrepreneur living in your laptop, basically it's just becomes your normal and anything outside of that becomes more scary. So you kind of feel scared or hesitant to dive into the details on the physical world. So you get more courageous and you get more the ideal person in your head in the digital space. Yeah, right.
I'm going to close with this, Deniz. Should we be thinking about creating, whether they are boundaries of practice, whether they are maybe ethical approaches and questions, like what should we be doing to think or do our best, maybe? Because I'm sure an iterative process. There's nothing static about it. But how do we understand creating a bit of an ecosystem of safety and practice and best practice, so that we don't sort of go off the rails into what I was talking about in the AI in the military potential, that could be ultimately very challenging to the survival of our species or just our general experience of life and what makes us uniquely human.
Yeah, right. I guess there are lots of measures taken by especially from the bigger companies right now, for military, for like ethical reasons. Obviously, I personally think that it's hard to prevent at some point because everyone is building nowadays. Like one person is dreaming about something and then building the tool in 2 days. And of course, if they have bad intentions, I'm doubtful if we have the right functionalities to stop that person in the digital space at the moment. So it's still in improvement. So there should be, of course, like more and more investment. And I guess here again, like US is leading on putting that ethical or like limitations in terms of like AI development. On the other side, there are lots of unpredictable stuff that even if you are in the goodwills, even if you are, the one of the bigger companies, I guess there are things that are hard to prevent in any way, like people losing their jobs. Obviously, there's going to be a transformation process for people to renew their skills and start other stuff. But as far as I'm talking with people on the AI, on the blockchain, on anything, basically this transformation, although it's painful, it's usually leading to more jobs, basically, because like for example, the biggest technology companies, like you would expect them to have maybe like 10, 20 people to run the entire company since they're like fully digital, but it's somehow they're still having the most number of employees under their roof, and they all got like more jobs, because it's not like more brain is needed, more help is needed. That part doesn't really scare me, but of course the ethical concerns will be there. I guess governments should understand and lead the process here, like put standards. That's the way to go, at least for now.
Yeah, parallel conversations that at least explore what could be or what needs to be, not only to support the innovation and the entrepreneurs like yourself, but also to not only, I guess, protect or at least provide some safeguards so that we can fully experience the opportunity that is represented by all of your hard work. We want to thank Deniz Ozgur. She is the co-CEO of Space Runners. You can go to spacerunners.com, check out Smiley World by Space Runners, Bellman X Space by Space Runners. There's so much going on with her and her company, and I think we're going to be hearing a lot from you. Thank goodness you're young and vibrant and ready to, or continuing to crush it. I think we're all going to benefit from that. We're learning a lot about ourselves, and I think that Space Runners is at the forefront of that. Once again, I'm your host, Dr. Rod Berger. Thanks for taking the plunge into HeadRoom, where we uncover the why behind the what and who impacting our lives. HeadRoom is a production of Rainlight and co-produced by our friends at Old Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Rod Berger, and this is HeadRoom.